This is Gemara Sanhedrin, Daf Zayin. All the learning should be an incredible zchus refuah shleima for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva b'siyata deshmaya. The incredible zchus HaTorah should bring the ultimate refuah shleima b'karov mamish. We're holding at the bottom of Vav Amid Beis. We are 3 lines towards the end of the Amid, as the Gemara says, Heichi Dami. We concluded yesterday's shir with explaining that once there is a Gemar Din, the first Shita and the Brisa taught us that no longer can the Dayanim mitigate a compromise, a Pshara, only before the Gemar Din. So asks the Gemara, what is a Gemar Din? Heichi Dami Gemar Din. Amar Rav Yudah Rav. Gemar Din is as follows. When the Dayan says, Ishplani atachai, Ishplani atazakai, that is the end of the court case. You bang the gavel, you're a chayiv, you're a potter. That's the Gemar Din, and at that point, no longer can the compromise be created. Says the Gemara, really wrapping up all the previous shitas. We should have finished this yesterday. Amar Rav, Halacha ki Rav Yeshua ben Karcha, we paskin like Rav Yeshua ben Karcha. We mentioned this yesterday. Rav Yeshua ben Karcha was a shita that said it is the correct avenue for the Dayanim to try to create Sharais, to try to create a compromise. Asks the Gemara, is that true? Aini is such true. Ravuna Talmidei de Rav Ravuna the Talmud of Rav. Ki avi asli kamei de Ravuna, when he came from the Torah Amalei Dayana biisu. He would say as follows: I Dayana biisu, shar biisu. Do you want a din or do you want a shara? He would ask which one it is. So the question is, if Rav says the halacha like Yeshua ben Karcha, then the Talmud of Rav should certainly say as such. So why does the Talmud of Rav Huna, why is he saying that you left it up? Do you want me to give you a clear cut in? Do you want a pshara? Yeshua ben Karcha should have done, Rav Huna, should have done like his Rebbe Rav, and he should have always tried to facilitate a pshara. Says the Gemara, my mitzvah nami dekamer Rav Yeshua ben Karcha. What is this mitzvah that Yeshua ben Karcha said? Yeshua ben Karcha said it is the appropriate practice, it is meritorious, it is a mitzvah to facilitate the pshara. Says the Gemara, what is that mitzvah as we turn over to Zayin Amid Aleph? Explains the Gemara, mitzvah lemeimra leho. The mitzvah is to do what? To tell the two balei dinim, idayana b'isu, ibshara b'isu. Says the Gemara, the mitzvah that we are referring to is gufa, this point that Rav Huna said, that the mitzvah is to say, do you want a clear-cut din, or do you want a pshara? But ask the Gemara, when we go back to all the shitas, this is a problem. Hainu Tanakama. But that is the shita of the Tanakama. So what way are you passing like Rav Yeshua ben Karcha? It answers the Gemara, Ika beinayu mitzvah. Rav Yeshua ben Karcha savar mitzvah, Tanakama savar rishos. The difference between Rav Yeshua ben Karcha and the Tanakama is, we will call it the level of obligation that is to facilitate to such. Is it just a mitzvah? It's the appropriate course of action, or is it a rishos? If you want, you could. That's the difference. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Now we run into a different sheetah, 4 lines down, Daf Zayin Amid Aleph. Hainu Rav Shimon ben Menasya. Says the Gemara, but wait, that's the sheetah of Rav Shimon ben Menasya. Explains the Gemara, Ika beinayu, the chalik between Rav Shimon ben Menasya and the sheetahs that we're saying now is what? 5 lines down, Misha Tishma Divrayem. The difference is that when Rav Shimon ben Menasya said that once the Dayanim hear the different statements of the litigants, and once the Dayan knows the way to paskin, then he's not able to say to them, Siu ubutsu, let's go and make a compromise. So if Shimon ben Asya is adding on a caveat, and he's saying that they're only allowed to create this compromise until the moment that the Dayan knows the way to paskin. But at the moment that the Dayan has clarity, at that point he's no longer able to facilitate a compromise at all. Continues the Gemara, where 8 lines down. The first one line is Upaliga. Yesterday in Amid Beis, we had numerous ways of learning the pasuk Ubayteya beirich anietz Hashem. One who is literally Baiteya, he praises Ubayteya, the compromiser, Beirich, if he is praised, Nietz Hashem, is insulting to Hashem. Says the Gemara, Pliga Rav Tanchon ben Chanilai, the Tana of the Braisa, this is particularly of Lazar, Rav Yosi Aglili, if you go back to the names, says the Gemara, he's at odds with Rav Tanchon bar Chanilai. Dama Rav Tanchon bar Chanilai teaches Rav Tanchon bar Chanilai loy namar mikra zeh eliken egen ma'isa egel. This pasuk of Ubayteya beirech nietz Hashem is only said with regard to the egel azav shenemar, as the pasuk says v'yarara and viva mizbeach lefanav mara. What exactly did Aaron HaKoyin see? Amar Rav Binyamin bar Yefes, Amar Rav Lazar Chor. He saw Chor ben Aaron, shezavuach lefanav, that they killed Chor. Amar, says Aaron HaKoyin, Ilahi shamanu leho. If I do not listen to them, Ashta now, Avdali kedavdu b'Chor, they're going to do to me what they did to Chor. Umekayim bi, and it'll be fulfilled about me. Thinks Aaron im yaroig b'mikdash Hashem. Kayin v'navi. Will be fulfilled. Should both a Kayin and a Navi be killed within the Mikdash Hashem? V'lo yahavoyelu tekantel olam. And Aaron HaKoyin was worried that there might never be a takana for them forever. 3 lines before the white lines, and therefore, says Aaron, Mutav, it is better to la'avdu le'egel, to serve the egel. Why? Efsher havoyelu tekanta, perhaps they'll be able to do tekanta v'tshuva. And that is where Aaron HaKoyin learned that he should do such. So in as much as this is a form of baiteya, this is a form of compromise, and it had the right intentions, still, ubaiteya beirich nietz Hashem, it's obviously a nietz, the whole maisa that happened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Gemara, concluding part A of today's shiur, v'hani Tanai, the Tanai Mudan, who do not explain, like Rav Shimon ben Menasya, who says that once the Dayanim knew he's not able to create a compromise, they are at odds. Upaiter mayim rishis madain my darshbe. So Shimon and Menasya learned it out from the pasuk of Upaiter mayim rishis madain. So says the Gemara, my darshi be. How do they learn it? Explains the Gemara in the first white line. Kid Rav Amnuna, Damar Rav Amnuna comes along Rav Amnuna, and he teaches Ein on the first very white line. Ein techila tina shaladan idoin. What is the beginning of the din Torah keneged a person? Elo al divrei Torah. The tchilas din of a person is on divrei Torah. Shem poiter mayim rishis madain. Amar Ravuna, another way of learning the pasuk. Haitirga demaya letzinura debitka demaya. That what is tigra, fighting, is comparable to a channel formed by a tzinura demaya, a gush of water overflowing from a river. Kivan de Ravach, the Bitka de Mai, Kivan de Ravach, that once it is widened, it's going to continue to widen. That's how he explains the pasuk. That's what it means. It's the beginning of the Tigra, it's the beginning of the fighting. It just overflows and goes weiter and weiter. And finally, number 3, Abai Keshisha Amar, Dami Liguda de Gamla, Kivin de Come. Says Abai, you know what it's comparable to? A plank on a narrow bridge. Once it's firm, it remains firm. And that's how Abaya learns out the pasuk. So too, when there is tigro, when there is fighting, it will forever endure. Not forever, but it will remain firm and it will take hold. Continues the Gemara, we are 3 lines into the very wide line, 4 lines, into the very wide line. Says the Gemara, another simin again. We've been pushing, we've been mentioning the incredible Zichru program that Baruch Hashem Rezeicha to record daily. Anyone who hasn't tried, we certainly recommend it. Baruch Hashem, incredible simanim, pictures with a beautiful review. So we give about a 5-minute shiur. We try to keep it up daily. Now is the perfect time. We're still at the beginning of the Masechta. We could dive right in. Says the Gemara, this is going to continue off of the pasuk that we just quoted of Paiter Mayim. Says the Gemara, there was a person who came saying, Tovya de Shama, Vaidish. Fortunate. Tuvia is the one who hears. He doesn't respond. Vadish. And he becomes accustomed. He doesn't care what people say about him. Chalfua bishta. Meya. For the fact that he's quiet, he channels and he changes his 100 for his bishta, for a meya, 100 misfortunes will pass him by. Amar le Shmuel Rav Yehuda Krok Siv. The pasuk says, "Poiter mayim reishes madain, reish mani dayane." That the beginning of a fighting is 100 misfortunes. Oh, another story. That a person came and said, Atarti on 2, Talas on 3, Ginaval Miktal. A thief is not killed. Amar Shmuel Rav Yehuda. Shmuel says to Rav Yehuda, Kroksiv, the pasuk says, Kayamar Hashem al Shalish B'Shei Yisrael. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu regarding the 3 sins of Klal Yisrael, Al Arba lo yeshivanu. But with regard to the 4, I'll not turn away from punishing him. And another story, even if 7 pits are dug to make peace, he'll be saved for all of them. But 1 pit for the evil person he will fall into. Again, we see the discord, we see what could happen. The pasuk says, Kishava Yipol Tzadik Vikam. The Tzadik could continuously fall, will get up, but Rasha Yipol Bachas. There was someone who was walking and saying, Dazil mi beidina Shakal Glima. When you leave court, having your coat removed, the court paskined against him, meaning taking his coat as payment. Lizmar zemer v'lezel borcha. He should sing a song and go on his way. Be happy. Be happy with the fact that he had something in his possession that he had to give, that he had to pay back. Amalei Shmuel Rav Yehuda, Karak Sev. The pasuk says, Yam kol amazel makaymai yavai v'shalem. Should go back in peace. Continues the Gemara. There was someone who's come in saying, again, continuing the theme, all these different statements and stories of coming off of the same theme, smack in the middle of the wide lines on Zainam and Aleph. First word on the line is he. Hinayamo dekulam shafil. A woman sleeps, the basket on her head is lowered. Person is lazy, their work suffers. Amle Shmuel Rav Yehuda Krok say, what's the pasuk? Batzaltayim yimach hamekarev v'goymer. Batzaltayim, when one is lazy, when one just trudges around, yimach hamekarev, the ceiling sags. Haod avikamer v'azil gavra derachitzna alei. Someone who I trust. Ad ye ligzize v'kam. Picks up his fist and stands against me. Amrei Shmuel Rav Yehuda Krok Sev Gamish Leimi Asher Batachti, boy that I hoped in Vigomer. Hoda Vigomer Vazil. There was someone that was coming in saying Kirichim Sin Have Aziza. When the love between husband and wife is strong, Aziza Aputya Tisafseire Shechivan. We could lay together on even the width of a sword. We're so close. But Hashta Deloya Ziza Rechimtan. But now, unfortunately, the love is not strong. Poraya Barshitin Garamida Losagilon. A bed of 60 amos doesn't suffice. A lesson which is so powerful that when one is close, they don't need any space. But when there's discord, of course, all the space in the world will not help them. Amar Ravuna Kraik Sivi. Says Ravuna, this is indeed a pasuk Meikarik. Originally it says, says the Kadosh Baruch Hu, I make myself known to you there, I'll meet you there, I'll speak to you for time the Kabayres Tanya. And we learned in a Braisa, Araim V'tisha V'Kabayres Tevacharikan Asarat Stent Fachem Uksif V'Abayis Rabbanah Melech Shloim Haylashem Shishim Amma Arkay Vetzim Rach Bayu Shloishim Amma Kaimasai. The house that Shlomo Melech built was 60 by 20 by 30. Ubesayv Ksiv, the Pesach continues, Kaimar Hashem HaShvaim Kisiv Ha'aretz HaDoim Raglai. Ezeh Obayis HaShetiv Neli, what's the house he could build me for Kaimer? My mashma. So says the Gemara, So what does this, before my mashma, so proves the Gemara, then as much that when Hashem was talking to us, when we were B'Shalayim, Hashem was able to appear to us from on top of the Kapairas. But when unfortunately afterwards there was discord, when there were issues, then even this tremendous Beis HaMikdash of 60 by 30 by 20 was not large enough for our Kadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. Continues the Gemara, my mashma, what is the meaning? How do we know? We went back on yesterday's Amud Beis. How do we know L'Sagura means to hold back? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Krav, V'yayin Lo Sishta V'Lo Sagor, says the pasuk, wine should not be drunk and should not be gathered in. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Me'achatochen B'kayis Lachma Agra B'ksir B'Ma'achala. And Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Acha B'Rid Rav Yika Amar Me'acha Oiger B'kayis Boi Maskil. A wise man gathers together in the summer multiple makairos to teach us this din. We continue, we're about 12 lines from the bottoms of the two dots, and again, we have another siman. How many incredible hints to just jump on the Zichru bandwagon. We have another siman over here, in which is going to introduce dinim, different members of Shmuel bar Nachmani b'shem Rav Yonasan regarding Dayanim. Says the Gemara Shmuel bar Nachmani Rav Yonasan kol dayan shedan din emes la'amita, any dayan that judges appropriately masha shechina b'Yisrael. An appropriate judgment brings the Shechina down to Klal Yisrael. Shenemar elikim nitzav askel b'kerv elikim yishpaz. Chodayin she'ein don dinemes la'mitoi. If a dayan does not judge appropriately, karim the Shechina shetistalek miYisrael. Then Rachmana litzlan, it causes the opposite. It causes the Shechina to depart. Shenemar v'shoy aniyim en kasev yoidim ata'okom yoimar Hashem v'goymer. That was statement number one. He continues the Gemara, 5 lines to the bottom of Rishwan Nachmani of Yonasan son. Called Dayan Shenoitel Mizev V'Noisin Lazeb. And he Dayan that takes from one person, gives to another. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Noitel Mimenu Nafsho. Hashem takes away his nefesh. Shenemar. As the pasuk says, Al Tikzu Dalu Al Titcha Ani Bashar. Don't rob, don't steal from the poor, because he's poor. Don't afflict. Don't oppress those who are at the gate. Ki Hashem Yariv Rivam v'Kaiveas Kaiveam. Kadosh Baruch Hu fights their battles and rob life of those who Kaiveam Navash. V'Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonasan, 2 lines to the bottom. La'olam al la'olam yira dayin atzmai ki'ilu charev munachas loy bein yarkaisav. A dayan has to always see himself, a sword is resting between his thighs. And Rachmana litzlan, the care he has to have is that Ki'ilu, he has a sword on his lap, and Gehenim is opening up underneath him. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, as we turn over to Zayin Amud Beis, Hinimitasai, Shalishleima Shishin Gebayrim, Savula Migibar Yisrael, Kul Machzu Charev Melumde Melchama, that Shlomo HaMelech's literally bad, here it's referring to the Beis HaMikdash, has 60 strong men, the Talmidei Chachamim surrounding it. Kulam achuzei charim lumim v'chamesh chaver yecha ba'achad ba'alei lois. All of them holding swords, skilled in battle, with a thigh in their legs. Mipachtam shal gehenim shedaimet lelayla. That's what the pasuk means. It means that it's as if Gehenim is open up in front of them as they are darshaning, as they are paskening Dinei Torah. Continues the Gemara, 5 lines to the bottom. Darsh Rav Yeshaya. What is the meaning of the pasuk What is the meaning of the pasuk Beis David? The house of David. In the morning there should be mishpat, and it should be saved from one who steals, one who oppresses. Says the Gemara of Chiba Boiker. What does it mean that Boiker? That there's something particular about the morning. Elo, we learn out from here. In Baruch HaKol, if the Psak Halacha is clear to you, Kibayker, like the morning, Amru Paskin. Ve'im lav al tamru. Do not get involved unless it is as clear as day, literally. Continues the Gemara, 2 lines from the white lines. Rav Abam Rav Yonasan, Mehacha Emer Chachma Achoisi At. Tell Chachma, you are my sister. What does that mean? In Baruch Lecha, if it's clear to you, Adavar. this is the way you have to ask. And if something says clear, like your sister, she asur l'cha, that your sister is asur, meaning it's such a simple halacha, zero thought, as clear as day, that when sister is forbidden to him, then if the halacha that you're pasking is as such, and amruah, you should paskin on the lav, and if not, amruah, you should amruah, do not get involved. Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Asara sheyoshim bedin koiler talui b'tzavar. 10 judges in a judgment. A chain hangs around the neck of kulam, of all them. Pshita, says Mar. This is referring to particularly a Talmud before his Rabbi. That if the Talmud realizes that the Rebbe is making a mistake and he's quiet, then the Talmud is as if he himself was part of the crime. Ravuna kavi asi dina yonali kamei. What would Ravuna do? Michnafu maisi asar rabbanim bei rab. He would bring 10 Talmid Chacham in the yeshiva Rav Amar Keichid L'Matayun Shiba Mikashura. And he said, you know why? So that each will only receive a little bit. He'd share the judgment, and therefore only part of the judgment is each one responsible to, wanting to make sure that they were not afraid to dan. Rav Ashi kavi asi treifasali kamei. On the 5th line, when a treifa would come from Rav Ashi, a shayla or treifa, making of a ma'aser lekulu, what would he do? He would gather everyone together, tabachi demasa mechasya, all the birches of Masya, mechasya, and Amar. And what would Rav Ashi say? Amar, Darish of Nachem Bar. No. Amar, he would say, one second. Amar keichi delmatian shiba mikashura. So everyone only receives part of the blame. Ki asur avdimi amar darash of Nachem bar Koyin maidich seb. What is the meaning of the pasuk? B'melech b'mishvat yamid aretz ish trumos yaharsenu. What do we do with this pasuk? Teaches the Gemara im dayan daim lemelech she'no tzarich liklum. If the dayan is like a melech that does not need anything, then what? Yamid aretz. Then the halacha is he could withhold. But in daimel lekayin shemachzer b'beis agranois, then yarsenu. Then he's going to overthrow it. The personal negiyas that one has to be so careful about. Continues the Gemara 12 lines down. The first one line is yarsenu. Continues the Gemara. Devei nisiya oikme dayan of law begamir. The house of the Nasi appointed a judge who was not Gomer. Amalei Yehuda bar Nachmeni miturgemane dereish Lakish. So the Nasi said to Yehuda bar Nachmeni, the spokesperson of Reish Lakish, come get up, Ale ba'amayra, and say, stand as a spokesman from him. Come gachan alei. So Yehuda bar Nachmeni stood and bent over the dayan. V'loy amalei v'loy midi, he had nothing to say. He wasn't a Talmud Chacham. Pasach v'amar, Yehuda bar Nachmeni opened himself and he says, "Have yomer leitz ha'akitza uri 11 daimim." He said, "Woe is the one that said awake to the dumb stone who said arise. Hu yaira hine hu ta'afos zav v'chasav chol ruach in kerboy. Can it teach? Behold, it's filled with gold and silver. There's nothing on it. V'aser hakadosh baruch hu, Hashem comes the parah mima'amidin. Hashem will come and pay back for those who appoint someone who's unqualified. Shenemar v'Hashem b'chol kadshay. Hey mi panav has mi panav kol haaretz. The critical care for hiring the wrong one. Continues the Gemara Reish Lakish. Kol hamamid dayan, anyone who appoints a judge. Sheino Hagen Kilunoite Ashira be Yisrael Rachmanu Litzlan. As if he planted an Ashira, a tree of the Zar in Klal Yisrael. Shenemar Sheftim v'Shayitr Titin L'cha v'Samach Lelos L'cha Ashira. Kolei Zosit L'cha Ashira Kolei. How careful you have to be about the Dayanim, about those in charge. Amar Rav Ashi b'Makim Sheish Hamidei Chachamim Kilu Noita Itza Mizbeach. When there is a place where the Talmidei Chachamim, it's as if they planted Asherah near the Mizbeach, meaning if there are Talmidei Chachamim, they don't appoint them. There are Talmidei Chachamim, and instead they appoint someone who is not learned. It's as if you have a Mizbeach, and you take the Asherah, you take them with the Zar, you plant it right next to it. Shemar Eitzel Mizbeach Hashem L'kecha. Eitzel Mizbeach Hashem L'kecha. Continues the Gemara, Ksev, Lo Sasan Iti, Lo Chesef, Lo Yizav, don't make for me gold and silver, El Chesef, El Yizav, Hu Lo Avdi, Had Eid Shari, to can make a god out of AIDS, of course not. Amar Rav Ashi, Eloika, Haba Bishul Kesef, what does it mean? It means Elokei Kesef, El Zav. Excuse me, what does it mean? Aloika Abad Bishul Kesef, Aloika Abad Bishvil Zav, that is the way you touch up the bossing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's only of a certain person. Continues the Gemara, going back to what we learned prior. What is the Einesh for the Dayan that judged incorrectly? And with this we're going to conclude. Rav Kiavi Asi Lebei Dino, when Rav will come to Bez and Amar Hachi, Beros Nafshi Leketola Nafik, he would say, this person is going to go to his death. V'tzvi Beisei Les Huda Avid. And this person who's going to be paskin to be killed, the tzvi beisa to take care of his household, he doesn't do when he's invested. Reik on the beisa oil, and he comes to court, reik empty. V'lavai shetevia k'tiyasa, and halavai he should come back the same way that he's leaving it. Unfortunately, of course, that won't be the case if they paskin against him. When Rav would see a crowd of people following him, Amar would Rav say, if he rises up to the heavens, he'll perish forever. He'll be lost forever. When he would do what? When he would be carried on the shoulders during Shabbos and Yom Tif, the Shmuzin Amar Hachi, he would say that if riches are not forever, and does the crown not always stand, of course, this covenant is not real, but it's only the Torah that's going to be real. So Darash Bar Kapara Mina Milsa Daimir Abanim, how do we know? How do we know this concept that one should be masun? One should be deliberate. Do not go up on steps. And nearby it says, these are the laws. From here we learn number of laws of Darish. I'm Kaddish. The Dayan should not stand over their head. Shenemar. Excuse me. Asher Tasim. Says the Gemara, Asher Tasim, Asher Mitzilam Demi Bailei. It's the wrong terminology. Explains the Gemara, Elu Kol Dayanim, these are all the Dayanim Ravuna, Ki Avinafik L'Dayan Amar Achi Afukele Mane Dechanuta Mikal Ritzua V'Shavat De Sandala. This is just the way that it's going to be. We're going to stop over here. We'll pick it up from Vatzaveh in the next year, B'siyata Dishmai.